So, good morning everybody, and a very warm welcome to today's graduation ceremony. This is actually the first of a set of degree ceremonies to take place in Warwick's 50th anniversary year, a year in which fortuitously we've been named Times and Sunday Times University of the Year. And it's a great pleasure to greet all of you, your families and your friends, and of course our honorary graduands, Professor David Cardwell and Mr. Vivek Singh. Right at the outset, I'd like to start by thanking our student musicians for entertaining us and for accompanying our celebration so impressively. Well done. Now, today is obviously a very special day. It's a day of celebration and of hope for times to come. You've reached yet another hugely significant milestone in your lives, and I want to offer you my heartiest and my most sincere congratulations. Nearly all of you here today are postgraduates, and winning a postgraduate degree from a top university like Warwick is a sterling feat. The university is enormously proud of you, as I'm sure are your families and your partners and your friends, all of those people who've supported you emotionally and in many cases financially throughout your time here. You worked hard to get here. Then many of you will have done quite exceptional things whilst you've been here. Most importantly, however, once you leave, I'm absolutely convinced that you will go on to achieve even more remarkable feats. You and all those who've supported you can be proud of yourselves now and, I am quite sure, in the future. No doubt you're wondering what that future will actually hold for you. And part of the ceremonial purpose of a day like today is not just to prompt reflection on what's gone by, but to indulge in some speculation on what might lie ahead. As you face the next big move, whether that's the first step towards a serious career, or a decision to stay on in education for a while longer, or maybe even some time out to mull things over further, I'm sure that producing a map of your future is uppermost in your mind. Now, I'm a geographer, and you probably won't be surprised to hear that I'm fascinated by maps. They're not just extremely useful instruments which show us the right direction when we're lost, but they can also tell many different types of story, from the political to the economic, from the physical to the cultural. And one thing that I think about a lot at the moment is how the global map of higher education is changing, and one thing that struck me in preparing for today is how that changing map is linked in important ways to your future personal map. Now, you hardly need me to tell you how significant globalization is. Many of you here today will have come from overseas to study. Many of you will now move on from the UK to undertake further study or for work. And whatever happens, your careers will almost certainly all be highly internationally mobile. But it's not just where you live and will live that's been shaped by globalization. It's also how you communicate. It's the things that influence you and all of the different circumstances that are global in their effect and origin, and which will profoundly shape how you are going to live out your lives. So what's the map of the university in an era of globalization, and how will that determine the map of your future? To answer that forward-looking question, it often helps to look back a bit in time. Wilhelm von Humboldt, the 19th century statesman who's generally credited as being the founder of the modern university, viewed universities not just as repositories of knowledge and shepherds of the different disciplines, but also as creators of an environment in which many different intellectual and emotional stimuli exist. The university environment is not just one where independent thought can thrive and new ideas can flourish, but also one where it's possible to learn that, as he put it, how a person masters their fate is more important than what their fate is. Von Humboldt was concerned with the simultaneous process of learning and the cultivation of character. And really great universities like Warwick are imbued with this same process. But what else does this mean for this class? Well, funnily enough, Wilhelm's brother Alexander can tell us something more. While Wilhelm stayed at home and worked on matters of state, Alexander was a world-renowned nature explorer and researcher who brought the world back to be studied in the new universities that his brother was busily founding. Many of the natural science disciplines can see Alexander as their father, and his book Cosmos was the world's first encyclopedia of that new universe, profoundly important in its scope and the way in which it actually then influenced what we now know as modern science, particularly, for example, in the effect it had on the work of Darwin. Alexander had a lot to say about the complexity of the natural universe and about how humanity and nature are involved in a symbiotic relationship. And his thesis still strikes many chords today as we contend with the consequences of an increasingly globally interconnected world. So what have the ideas and work of statesman Wilhelm and explorer and scientist Alexander got to do with each other? Well, because it's not only the job of the university to build character and knowledge as a joint process, it's also its task, its really pressing task, to lay out solutions to the most serious problems that the world faces. We need to remember that, as Wilhelm said, we can be masters of our own fate, and that, as Alexander said, one of the noblest characteristics that distinguish modern civilizations from those of remoter times is our ability to perceive the connection between the physical and the intellectual world. Now, as Warwick graduates, I'm utterly convinced that you have the wherewithal to play your own hugely important part in shaping the world's future as you map out your own futures. And given that today is a celebration of all of your achievements, allow me to just briefly remind you why you're going to be up to that admittedly daunting task. First off, there's the way in which Warwick sets you up for contending with the instabilities, but also the opportunities of the globalizing world in which we live. As a Warwick graduate, you're imbued with particularly cosmopolitan characteristics that will come into their own. And I don't just mean the technical skills and the subject-specific knowledge that you've acquired with your new degree, important though these are. I mean your attitude of care towards the world around you and the community that you're a part of. Warwick students stand out precisely for their enthusiasm for giving something back to the world. This year, for example, students in Warwick Volunteers participated in over 900 student volunteer placements into the local community. And then there are, of course, all of our students who spend time teaching in schools in Africa, in India, and in Pakistan. And the impact of Warwick students is felt all over the world. And as a result, Warwick students face the world with a compassion and a willingness to serve their communities that marks them out as distinct. And there's no better exemplar of this than this year's Outstanding Student Contribution Awards, of which we will give out 2 today. Second, there's the academic rigour that shaped your degree and whose standards you've all met. For example, Warwick's commitment to unrelentingly high standards of teaching and research will enable you to make your mark on the world map. During your time here, you'll have been taught or supervised by many outstanding teachers whose research will have influenced how they interact with you and which justifies Warwick being firmly placed by newspapers amongst the so-called Ivy League of English universities. Equally, the 2014 Research Excellence Framework results confirm Warwick's research preeminence, with the university yet again placed firmly amongst the very top of UK universities for research excellence. Finally, there are the innovative and creative ways in which Warwick has allowed you to undertake research into the world's most pressing problems. It's the duty of universities like Warwick to play their part in carving out solutions to these difficulties. As Warwick graduates, you've earned your academic stripes in an institution that is acutely aware of that role. Think, for example, of the seed bank held by our School of Life Sciences, preserved by Warwick academics, so that they can do their bit to ensure the world's future food security. Think of the way we're providing postgraduate legal training in Ethiopia, developing non-physician clinicians in Malawi, and researching achievable urban form within India's fast-growing cities. So based on those 3 waypoints, and knowing that Warwick students are very much in demand, I'm confident that your future will be secure. As Warwick's graduates, you will have amassed a tremendous wealth of skills and experience to prepare you for your future. And you should leave Warwick secure in the knowledge that the university is building on its innovative past to ensure that we really are appropriately set up to make the future of the contemporary world secure too. Clearly, solving global challenges can't be done in isolation. So we're trying to work towards a new map of how universities exist by becoming a globally networked university, a university in which we work with overseas partners to pool resources and capacity, in which staff and students are mobile between different institutions, and in which we build a shared infrastructure that works to all of our partners' advantages. Our strategic alliance with Monash University in Australia and our partnership with universities like NYU, Carnegie Mellon and Toronto in New York are prime examples of this. As Warwick moves into this new globally connected phase, we very, very much hope that you as graduates will want to be a part of what comes next. You're now joining a community of just about 185,000 Warwick alumni worldwide. The 70-odd alumni associations worldwide constitute a network which not only keeps you in touch, but which will also be active in helping you find contacts and employment wherever your life may take you next. They constitute an organisation which not only keeps you in touch through news and events, but is active in helping you to find contacts and opportunities wherever your life may take you next. In other words, do remember to keep us updated with your latest contact details. We really do want to hear about your life beyond the bubble, now that most of you are leaving Warwick, and we want to make it easy for you to remain an active part of the Warwick community. So, as your time at Warwick draws to a close, you can leave here today secure in the knowledge that you've laid the foundations for a successful and a responsible future in a globalised world. It's now up to you to make your own personal map of how you get there, but now and today, let me say once again, well done. You've achieved fantastic things, and I know you're going on to achieve even more. You are the best of the best. Congratulations. I now declare this congregation open.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor, on behalf of the Senate, I present these graduates from the Faculty of Science for the award of their degrees.
By virtue of the authority vested in me, I admit these candidates to their degrees.
To the degree of Doctor of Science, Richard Kenneth Leach. Rick Pinkleton. Johan Schukens. To the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Biological Sciences, Yixiang Chen. Daniel Franklin. Amy Jean Quinn. In chemistry, Athena Anastasaki. Zoe Anderson. Jennifer Suzanne Butler. Ada Della Pia. Kay Elizabeth Beatrice Doncombe. Simon Edward Greenoff. Colette Guy. Rebecca Ann Kaner. Robin Lynn Fruhop. Matthew Philip Robin. Paul Sainsbury. Richard Todd. Jiang Zhang. In chemistry with industrial collaboration, Alan David Faulkner. In computer science, Nadeem Aslam Chowdhury. Adnan Mujahid Khan. Xin Jie Wei. Stephen Alexander Wright. In engineering, Ting Chen. Hiep Vu Dang. Adnan El Bajoui Yakzan. Era de Danan Hover. Ang Li. Dorota Danuta Plaza. Angeles Maria Rivero Pacho. In life sciences, Charlotte Carroll. In life sciences and chemistry, David Matthew Withall. In mathematical biology and biophysical chemistry, Nicholas Burkhoff. Edward Harry. In mathematics, Jenny Ann Cooley. Stephen James Tate. Richard Charles Henry Webb. Simon Cornelius Webber. In physics, Philip James Carter. Nessa Fereshta Sarnii. Daniel Fletcher. Thomas Goffrey. Sandra Magdi Kamel Grice. Samuel Hill. Scott Paul King. James John Mudd. Matthew Reed. In physics and complexity science, Anas Ahmad Rana. In plant and environmental sciences, Femi David Akandi. Charlotte Emily Carter. In psychology, Takao Noguchi. In statistics, Lorna Marion Barclay. Ashley Parry Ford. Helen Elizabeth Ogden. Catalina Andrea Vallejos Menezes. Mathieu Vidmar. In Systems Biology, Emily Elizabeth Breeze. To the degree of Doctor of Clinical Psychology, awarded jointly with Coventry University, Eleanor Brown. Timothy Dorr. Sarah Flanagan. Nicola Kamari. Joanna Margaret Lloyd. Natalie Lowe. Samantha Jean Lawson Lowry. Helen Mortimer. Jennifer Thompson. Damien Wild. Tanner Ellen Williams. To the degree of Master of Philosophy in Statistics, Daria Alexandrovna Gromyko. To the degree of Master of Science by Research in Chemistry, Akina Marisa Carey. In Computer Science, Hui Zhu. To the degree of Master of Science in Analytical Science, Methods and Instrumental Techniques, Nicholas Antonatos. Rupan Chavda. Alexander James Aiken Dunn. Simona Gergel. Li Ying Huang. Haytham El Syed Mustafa Ali Ibrahim Hussein. Ming Shui Jia. Meng Shui Yangqing Xu Liu. Eva Povilonite. Rebecca Stevens. In Behavioral and Economic Science, Science Track, George Andrew Parnell Chester. Natasha Fosker. Michelle Lai Suet Fong. Naomi Muggleton. Priyanka Pereira. This concludes the first presentation of graduates, students from the Faculty of Science.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor, at Warwick, we're always delighted to welcome back one of our own, especially so when that person embodies our ethos of making a real-world difference. We invite to today's congregation a Warwick alumnus whose work in superconducting engineering is both record-breaking and life-changing. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Professor David Cardwell. David first came here to study in the 1980s. He left Warwick with a physics degree and a PhD under the supervision of Professor Malcolm Cooper in inelastic gamma-ray scattering, credentials that earned him a place at Plessey